Welcome back to step 5 of how to teach your kid to read without stress or tears in 5 easy steps. Step 5 is moving from words to sentences. I wanted to give you all this high overview of the fluency progression. And fluency just means your child's ability to read the words quickly, but to also read them accurately. And that's what's most important. You will find some kids that like to just go lightning fast, but they're making mistakes. And I tell them it's not just about going quicker or quickly, it's about also getting it right. Readers don't just rush through things, readers read. So again, think of this like a roadmap of where you are and where you need to go. If your student is at the letter names and letter sounds phase, that's fine, that's great. If you are working at the passage level, like reading a book, and your student is having a lot of trouble, consider going back down to just one sentence at a time or one short phrase, in the mud, on the log, and getting them good at reading that. If they're having trouble with sentences, drop down a level and just go back to reading words. Sometimes we teach letter names and letter sounds, and then we rush into giving our children a book, and they're simply not ready for that. You skipped a couple of steps and it's showing. Don't be afraid to go back down. Again, go slow to go fast. They will get there, but if you rush it, there's going to be a lot of tears, a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, and a lot of thinking something's not working, when really it's just that steps are getting skipped. So you're going to start with letter names and letter sounds. When they can get really good and really quick with letter sounds, especially when you're doing phonological awareness, move on to reading words. Then you want to move on to short sentences and short phrases of words that have sounds that you know that they know. Then you can move on to books or decodable readers or printables. A little bit each day goes a long way. Again, I cannot stress. Don't try to force your kid to sit there for an hour or say, you're not getting up until you're moving, or you're not doing this. It's not going to work. They're going to shut down. They're going to start building up some reading trauma or an aversion to working with you. You're going to be frustrated with them. And then you guys just might quit the whole thing. A little bit each day, make it fun and keep it short. So here's a decodable reader that can be found in my membership. I ended up coming up with some short stories that go along with the weeks of sounds that I know that they know so far. So for the short A week, there's only short A words. Then for the short E week, there's short E words, but also short A. As I move on, I can include all of the phonics skills, all the letter skills from the weeks before, and over time it builds into this really huge, big vocabulary of words that they can pull from, right? So if you're going to give them something like this, but they're not quite at the passage level yet, take it back down to the word or sentence level. Get out some index cards or some post-it notes. Write down the words that are going to be in the story that they have to read, especially words you know that might give them trouble, and review them on flashcards. Practice sounding them out, saying, N. You say the sound. N. What's the word hen? If it's a word like said and they keep forgetting how to pronounce it properly, get out those boxes that we did in step 4. Map the word. Let's put a heart over the AI because that's the tricky part. We have to remember this and review the words, then go back into the story and have them read the sentences. Something else you can do is just literally cover parts of the book or the page or the story and reveal one sentence at a time. Think about if you had a page of language or words that were in a language that you didn't know how to read. I don't know how to read Arabic. If I was just starting out and I had just learned a few characters or symbols that they used, but then someone gave me a whole page filled with them and I could only identify 1 or 2 of those, that's overwhelming. I might not even try it. Even though it probably has some words that I do know, I'm already overwhelmed and I'm going to check out. So you can also cover up parts of a text to just show a few at a time so that they're not as overwhelmed and they can be more successful. Model fluent sentence reading. That's another great thing you can do for your kid. Before they read something, you can read it first. Don't worry about them just repeating after you. You'll know if they're just saying what you said versus reading what you read. If you say, the cat sat on the log, and they look at the same page and then just say, the cat sat on the log, you're just talking. You're not reading. Point to each word and show me what you read. You can also point to the words out of order and double check that they actually recognize the words that they're saying. Make sure they're not just talking and repeating stuff. Make sure they're actually reading. Talk about what to do when you see punctuation. Oh, this is a period. I'm going to stop here and take a breath. Or this is a question mark, so I'm going to make my voice go up at the end. Or this is an exclamation point, so I'm going to read in an excited voice. And you kind of want to model that over time. Also keep in mind that repeated readings are great things. It might be something you have to convince your child of if they're saying, I don't want to read that book, or we already read that one, let's read a new one. You tell them, hey, we're going to read this book 5 times. Once a day, every day, we're going to read this book. You can time them and say, I want to see if you can read it faster than yesterday. Or you can just say, let's read it better than we did yesterday. Or just remind them. I just teach my kids the science behind it. Repeated readings make you a stronger reader. I always tell my kids, I will never waste your time. So if I'm asking you to do it, it's because I know that it works and I know it's going to help you, right? So make sure you build that trust with them. Read it. And then don't, again, when you're keeping it short, you're not reading the same book. You're not saying, go read that 10 times. Read it once. Even if they don't do the best, that's okay. You're going to read it the next day, 1 time, and then the next day, and then the next day. And over time, you're going to see that those skills are really building and coming together. All of the letters you taught them, all of the blending and segmenting and working on skills like that is going to come together, and they're going to become strong readers. What they read independently is important. Set them up for success. So if you have taught your kids a few letter sounds, and then you give them a book that is not really controlled for the sounds that they know, they might feel disappointed, frustrated, and like a failure. The first time they come to a word that contains phonics elements, letters that they don't know, and their skills that you've taught them so far start failing them, they're going to think it doesn't work. Which is why I'm such a huge fan of decodable readers. I have 46 weeks worth of decodable readers in my membership. I also have a growing library of foldable decodables, which kind of fold out and make a little book that are controlled for the sounds that kids know and build every week. I liken it to teaching your child how to swim. Are you going to put your beginning swimmer in the shallow end of a swimming pool and control that environment as much as possible until they get stronger? Or are you going to take your beginning swimmer out into the middle of the ocean and say, good luck? You're going to start in the easiest environment, and then as their skills build, the environment can change. Same thing with these books. Give them words that they can be successful reading so they can really learn and grow confidence in themselves that if I use the letter sounds I was taught, plus the blending skills I was taught, I'm going to be able to sound out and read any word. The minute they start coming up against words that they don't know how to read, and it keeps happening over and over and over again, they're going to lose faith in the system, and they're going to go back to looking at pictures and guessing, shutting down and just refusing to work, or crying. And that is what we want to avoid. We want it to be a fun experience every time they're around a book so they can really learn to enjoy them. And what you'll find is that over time, they will start to grow to a level where no matter what book you give them, it does have the phonics elements that they need. And if they come to a word that they don't know, because it's one of the few, they will just ask for help. They'll try it on their own and figure it out, or they'll just skip it, and then they'll learn it later when you teach them those new phonics sounds. So do a warm-up before you read. This is one of the decodables for my membership. Review the sounds and words that you're going to read. Make a big deal about their reading, even if it's choppy and robotic. If you think back to that fluency progression I showed, prosody and intonation was at the top, and that's where you're really going to sound like a reader and really be dramatic. When your child is first reading, this kind of passage is going to sound like, Pat is a cat, Pat, sad, Pat is sad, sad, Sam is a rat, Pat, and Sam. It's going to be choppy. They're just calling out the words. That's okay. That is on the progression to reading. We'll worry about how they sound and if they're stopping at punctuation and respecting it later on. Right now, we want them to build that confidence reading. So if it's choppy, don't worry about giving them those pointers just yet until their reading is more fluent. When they're reading, Pat is a cat, Pat sat, Pat is sad, Sam is a rat, Pat and Sam sat, that's when you tell them, okay, slow down. Listen to how I read it. Look at these periods. You can even highlight the periods. I'm going to pause here to break it up so we can really think about what we're reading. Pat is a cat. Pat sat. Pat is sad. Sam is a rat. Pat and Sam sat. And you say, do you hear the difference? Do you hear how I'm putting on a reader's voice? It's not the real voice that I talk in, but it's the voice I'm going to put on when I'm reading. Did you notice how I paused at the periods? It sounds so much better than just reading it fast or reading it choppy and stopping wherever you want. You can understand it better. You can picture what's happening in your mind better when you read and respect the punctuation and read in a reader's voice, not too slow, not too fast. You want their reading to come out at the same rate that they speak at, okay? If they're a naturally fast speaker, then it's okay if their reading is a little bit fast, as long as it's also accurate. If they're a naturally slow speaker, it's okay if their reading is also a little bit slow, as long as it's accurate and they can understand and comprehend what they've read. When we first start reading, we are learning to read, but eventually we will read to learn. So it's so important that their reading is fluent and accurate so they can start pulling information. Once they don't have to put as much labor into what is this letter, what is that sound, what is this letter, what is that word, they can really concentrate on what the words are saying and what the words mean. So I have this membership. It's the most effective way to teach reading. It is up to date on all the latest reading research, and it really just gives you all of the resources and printables and stories that you need. The lessons are in order. It's perfect for any students that are in kinder, first, or second grade, and just takes you through 1 week at a time. It gives you all of the lessons and printables. There are slides to show. It's colorful. It's interactive. Your kids are going to love it. If you use the code READHALF, you can take 50% off your first month in my membership for a very limited time. You're going to want to go to the website bit.ly/phonics time, and then select the monthly option, and you'll get in for 50% off and have access to everything. It is a deal that you don't want to miss. It's only for a limited time, so please, please, please sign up. If you have a new reader that you don't want to start struggling, or if you have a struggling reader that you want to save before it's too late. Thank you so much for joining me for this training. I hope it was helpful. Please reach out to me on Instagram with any questions that you might still have, and I can't wait to see you in the membership. Bye.